Well, bonjour, hello. I'm Dr. Isabelle Amick from the UnabridgedMD podcast. And today we are two to do this podcast. And Dr. Funke is with me. Dr. Funke.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Amig. I'm Dr. Funke Afolabi-Brown. I'm the founder of RestfulSleepMD, and just really excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, wonderful. So we are doing this because you're a sleep doctor. And I'm pretty sure every single person that I know have experienced some sort of insomnia at some point, or they are not as good in their sleep that they should.
Yeah.
And so maybe we start with the first thing, which is like, why do we need sleep?
Yeah, no, I love that. And you're right. I think every one of us has had one bad night of sleep or the other, right? And, one of the things I say is sleep is a superpower. It's not just something we do at the end of the busy day. It's not just something we do just to cure sleepiness, but sleep actually has healing powers to it, right? So when we start from the top to bottom, right, from the beginning of the day, you wake up from a good night of sleep supposedly, and then over the course of the day you start to build some deposits on your brain as you're going over the course of the day. And so when you go to sleep, your brain actually has this, I would say maybe like cleansing properties of really taking those deposits and washing them up. And studies have shown that in and of itself, if it's impaired, meaning if you don't get enough sleep and you don't give your brain that benefit of rest so that your brain can really get to work, has been associated with conditions like Alzheimer's. So the cleansing properties alone. And so that's just one. And then other areas of our physical health is beneficial, like our heart health, our metabolism, our immune system is regulated by sleep. And then also our mood, right? Our energy level, our performance, our mental health. Also, sleep plays a really big role. So literally, I start from the top all the way down. There's pretty much every organ system is impacted by sleep in one way or the other.
Yeah, that's always good to be reminded of this. And it's very interesting because for fibromyalgia, for example, so this chronic pain that's all over the body, and that more and more we're finding that it's if you actually were to do a biopsy of the skin, you would find that there's less nerve ending. It's called small fibers neuropathy. But we know that if the people are sleeping less and not as well, they have more pain.
Yeah, absolutely. So pain threshold actually changes when you don't get enough sleep. So exactly. And I've seen people, and you think about that. Yes, fibromyalgia. Another one is things like migraines, chronic migraines, all those kind of things diseases are impacted by insufficient sleep or, sleep deprivation or fragmented sleep. Although you can say it's almost like a bi-directional sort of relationship. It's almost like a two-way street in that sense, because when you're in pain, right, you might not be able to get good quality sleep. And then because you're not getting good quality sleep, then your pain threshold, right, is lower. You feel just a little bit more susceptible to the mood impairment that you might get from pain and from discomfort. So it's both. And then you wonder what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Well, what I really usually would recommend is trying to address both concurrently.
And that's a really, really valid point, because there's enough study in rheumatology, right? My specialty. There's enough study that are showing that you definitely have more inflammation if you don't sleep. And the more the inflammation you have, the more active disease you're gonna have. So rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, and so on. So as a rheumatologist, I would treat the patient and I would, immunosuppress them if they need to. Not everyone needs to, but some of our patients. What I wonder is, how do we tackle sleep issues? Like, a lot of my patients complain about insomnia, right? Like they can't, maybe they go to bed and then they wake up, right? Like they wake up and then they cannot go back to bed. And sometimes it's the pain, but sometimes it has nothing to do with the pain.
That is so true. And when we talk about insomnia, I think what we could even start with is the definition, which is the difficulties falling asleep, staying asleep or waking up at a time that is not desirable, right? Waking up earlier than your preferred time. That leads to some form of daytime impairment, right? If you're someone who, you wake up in the middle of the night, but you feel absolutely fabulous the next day, then it really is not insomnia, right? But for most people, including, I'm sure, your patients, this insomnia is impacting them. The other piece with insomnia is that it's occurring for at least 3 months. But personally, I don't think you need to suffer for 3 months. But now I have insomnia, because there's acute insomnia, there's transient insomnia, there are other areas of that.
Yeah.
And then we kind of try to go deeper and look at what are the contributors, what is contributing to insomnia in this situation. So just like you said, you can have insomnia due to a medical condition, right? So things like pain, like a disease state or something like that. You can have insomnia due to a mental disorder. So your mood, anxiety or depression and things like that can also contribute to insomnia. You can have insomnia due to maybe the medications you're taking for something or the other. And then we also have a component called psychophysiologic insomnia. And so what that is this increased cognitive arousal that gets in our way of being able to sleep. And so what that really creates is this vicious cycle where people start to almost like dread the bed. They start to get into bed and start to ruminate about how awful their sleep is going to be, how they're not going to function well during the day. If you have a patient who already has some tendencies like some medical disorder, how they start to think about that disease state and how they start to imagine that things are worse and catastrophize, so to speak. So you can see that, yes, a lot of times, and I think that's where we miss it sometimes, where we're like, well, if your insomnia is due to this condition and I've helped you fix the condition, why are you not better? Well, because there may be other things that are at play. And like with a lot of your patients, especially with patients with chronic pain, no matter what the cause is, they tend to get into that loop where the pain is almost pretty much gone, or it's at least relatively managed. But then what is left is that they've now gotten into this sort of habits or mindsets where they just they don't feel confident when it comes to their sleep. So I think first defining that, like you said, I love what you do, which is, yes, you're helping them with the, with the, the autoimmune component or whatever it is that's contributing, but now they're in this loop. And I usually will recommend a process sort of step by step to work on that. One is, you're right, many times, especially if you have psychophysiologic insomnia, many times people are trying hard to sleep. So sleep becomes this effort-related thing. And if you think about it, you don't necessarily know when you fall asleep. You just fall asleep. So they're trying hard, they're tossing and turning, they're doing all kinds, then they start taking medications and melatonin, and they start doing just all kinds of things in an effort to go to sleep. They're going into bed much earlier than they should so that they can start trying for longer. We hope that the longer they try, the more successful they will be. But what that then creates again is worsening of this spiral, where then it's now much harder to fall asleep. So we try to break those things step by step to say, well, here are certain things that we can do to promote, healthy sleep. Here are ways we have to limit the mindset around sleep. Here are habits that we can replace your current habits with to help you with sleep. And here are the strategies you can use during the day to help you, build better sleep habits. And so all I just described to you is sort of under this umbrella of what we call cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. And that's usually the gold standard, really, by the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. And, in some situations, people may need medications for sleep, but usually the most effective that we've seen, either by itself or with medication, is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or CBTI for short.
That's really interesting. So talking more about the CBT, the cognitive behavioral therapy, I wonder, does meditation is part of this? Because one of the things that I had learned, I don't know if, I don't know if I told you this, I've done like 12 days of meditation. Actually, I did 11 and a half days. I gave up at the end, and I always regret this. I had done, anyway, it's a whole full story that I will tell one day. But so meditation with no talking, no screen, nothing. It's like, it was hell, but it's also wonderful. And one of the things that the leader said was, even if you have insomnia, if you meditate, you're not feeling tired the next day. And I wonder, can you talk about this? Like, do you know anything about this? Because I do tell this to my patients because I've experienced it. But I wonder, like in my mind, I'm like, well, meditation is healing. So maybe that's what works when you're meditating instead of sleeping. Can you talk to us a little bit about this or about
No,
CBT?
absolutely. So much emerging data about the benefits of meditation on sleep. That is, in fact, even for my clients, one of the things I recommend is having some kind of mindfulness practice, whatever that looks like for you. Prior to going to sleep, and meditation is actually very healthy, very helpful. And they've done side studies of people who have, who meditate prior to bed and seeing that impact on their sleep quality, the kind of sort of EEG waves that they generate as a result of this practice. So definitely very beneficial. And, they're different when we talk about that. For me, I sort of put it all under this bucket or this umbrella of mindfulness, right? Some people may say, right, if I'm not able to sleep and I feel like my mind is racing, yes, mindful meditation is incredible. Sometimes it could be journaling your thoughts and kind of just reflecting and putting things down on paper. For some people, it could be a body scan where you're sort of going from one part of your body to the other and really just observing and being present, right? That's really what it is. And it's absolutely very beneficial to improving your sleep as one, sort of one aspect kind of under this umbrella of how we address, not just even insomnia, just improving sleep overall.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay. So because like that's sort of this short answer of like, oh, if you have insomnia, start meditating and know that you're healing as well. So might as well. And I find, I find myself sometimes having insomnia, and it's funny actually. I don't necessarily recognize it right away. And then I'll be like, oh, it's clearly late.
Yeah.
So that's kind of it's an interesting. Do you so who should come and see you? I just wonder, when you say, oh, I'm a coach for this, like what patients benefit from a coach like you or from you?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, I wanted to just mention with the meditation, as a part of really practicing and helping to just be more aware of your thoughts. There's still other parts, that's like a whole podcast on its own around like the behavioral pieces of this. So if you're laying in bed for hours and hours trying to sleep, I recommend just getting out of bed. If it starts to become frustrating, go out of bed, sit somewhere and just, meditate, read a book, do something else that's, distracting you a little bit. And then when you start to feel sleepy, come into bed. Don't drink
chemistry.
You said what?
Organic chemistry is very good to go to bed.
Well, it could do two things. It could either help you fall asleep or frustrate you.
Both.
So just find what is boring but not like frustrating, right? So yes, exactly.
Okay, good point.
If it's organic chemistry, you go have at it. So that's it. And then also, don't take caffeine. There's some of all these things. They're all kind of under the umbrella of sleep hygiene and things that we should do that would help our sleep and all that. So there's so many levels to it. And then, of course, if you have an underlying condition that may be contributing, like, if I have a patient with fibromyalgia, I'm a sleep expert. I'm not a fibromyalgia expert. So helping the family or the parent or the client know this is where sleep is involved. This is the area where I do need help. Like if I need to see a therapist, if I need to go see Dr. Mig, whatever it is, you kind of have to deal with all those things as well. Now, that question of what do I help? Really, it's high achieving women and their children. So think of that, even that, patient of yours that could be exhausted, right? You've fixed all the inflammatory response they're having secondary to their underlying autoimmune disease, but now they're in bed and they're ruminating this. They're almost like scared in the evening. Their heart starts to race before they get into bed because they don't know what kind of night they're gonna have. Or, they are having a hard time putting their phone down. They're having a hard time prioritizing their sleep. They're having a difficult time with setting boundaries. They've said so many yeses. Now they're annoyed with themselves because they're trying to figure out how they're going to fit it all in and still get some sleep. Or they have a kid who keeps coming out of the room. I don't know I'm sure most of us have had that, right? That child that's like, yeah, I want you to come back, or wakes you up at 2 a.m. and wants you to come and co-sleep with them and things like that. And because of that, your sleep is getting disrupted. So we really then look, you come in and say, I'm tired all the time and I cannot sleep. And then my role is to help you figure out where are the barriers to your sleep issues? What are the limiting beliefs you have to your sleep? Who or what is keeping you from falling asleep? And then we address it one after the other so that we can move you from just constantly drained, burned out, exhausted to really full of energy again, and really getting to wake up in the morning feeling refreshed.
I love this. I do. We're gonna finish very soon, but I do have one question about the caffeine. First of all, I love caffeine. I just love coffee so much.
Most of us
But
do.
so, what's your recommendation as a sleep expert? What's the recommendation about caffeine or chocolate? Because apparently it's just as bad, chocolate at night, something like that. You've got to tell me.
Yeah, no. So I enjoy caffeine too. I love the flavor. I love the taste, the smell in the morning. I think one thing we just need to be aware of is caffeine is a stimulant, right? It is, and that's the role. It blocks certain pathways in your brain that makes you just feel more alert. We call them the adenosine receptor. So it competes with it in your brain. And so that adenosine all contributes to you starting to feel sleepy. So when you take caffeine, it makes you feel more alert. It has been shown to improve performance, alertness and things. So it is great. But I think the key is figuring out your why. And that's a lot of reasons, a lot of things I really go over with my patients or my clients. Like, why? Why do you need caffeine? Or do you like caffeine, right? They're two different things. So if you're in a state where nobody can talk to you, you can't even put your shoes on without caffeine, you can't make any type of decision without caffeine, then I would say, let's try to address that. Let's try to get you better sleep, healthy sleep. And then if you say, okay, the caffeine just kind of helps give me that extra boost, and, I want just enjoy it as part of my morning routine, then that's completely fine. And then the other piece is the timing of the caffeine. So as you must have heard, I kept saying a lot of morning routine and things. The reason why is because caffeine is very long acting. So it stays in your system for several hours, right? Like up to 6 to 8 hours, some studies have shown. And the metabolism changes with people, right? So if you take caffeine, say in the evening, right? And when I'm talking about caffeine, it's not just coffee. It's like, things like soda, iced tea, all those like energy drinks. If you're taking it in the evening, and we say the half-life, meaning 50% of it is about gone in 6 to 8 hours, you still have a lot of it in your system at night. And then you're more likely to have more restless sleep. You're more likely to wake up very intermittently. And you're more likely to wake up in the morning still feeling tired. And guess what you grab? Another pot of coffee. And so now you have this spiral, right? So morning coffee, please do if you enjoy it. But make sure it's not more of a need, but more of a desire, right? And then make sure that you're taking it probably, I would say by 12 or 1 p.m. that you don't take any more, so that you give yourself enough time to get it out of your system so that you can sleep well at night.
Okay. All right. I'll try to keep it on in the morning. And I do decaf. I do have decaf. I found a good decaf, so it's good. It's been such a pleasure having you on the podcast. So thank you so much for being here. How do we find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I have had so much fun just talking to you, and you're just such a wealth of knowledge, and you're doing so much amazing things out there. Really, where to find me would be on my website. That's www.RestfulSleepMD.com. And then I'm also on Instagram at RestfulSleepMD. And then I'm on LinkedIn as Dr. Funke Brown. So those are some places, as well as Facebook. So I'm on the social media, and then my website is also a great place to connect, especially if you're ready to really start sleeping better.
Okay, I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here. And to the auditors, as you know, I'm Dr. Isabelle Amig. If you are looking for a rheumatologist that truly cares, and if you want to get into remission as fast as possible so that you can live the life that you were meant to live, I'm here at UnabridgedMD.com, and we are currently accepting new patients. So come and pick your spot. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Take care and see you next week.